So I'm DJ Styles, been mixing, started on vinyl back in 2000. Got into turntablism for a while, learned to beat juggling stuff on vinyl, then switched, progressed to CDJs, then went to DVS. I try to incorporate as many styles as I can. I believe, like you, and I know from tried and true, that it's matter over matter. I told my buddy, he's like, will you go to this thing? I was like, Shiftee, it's like he's the man as far as being able to execute. He's like, maybe you'll learn something on how to plan, and that's kind of what I'm here on, is planning, because the matter over matter is something I got to do.
So sort of similar, like planning sets.
Right.
Planning routines. Okay. Cool. Is anyone else here involved with the workshop? Are you part of the workshop? Okay. You're welcome to come up here. You're welcome to stand there, whatever you want. Okay. So we don't actually have a lot of time. So I'll just I'm going to touch upon some things that hopefully will like relate to what everyone wants to know about. The soaker inners will soak things in. Okay. So the first thing let's talk about is practice habits, and around 2007, I changed how I practice. And the way I used to practice is I would just sort of like practice something, then I'd like, okay, now it's time to switch. Okay, I'll practice some other thing, and I would sort of, it would be loose and free and just sort of however I felt. But then my friend, he's a drummer, and he was studying with like a drum master, and the way the drum master had him work was he would do everything for 30 minutes at a time, like literally with a stopwatch, and all the practice would be pre-planned. So it wouldn't just be like a free-for-all kind of thing, or even like, okay, I'm going to practice for 30 minutes and then stop. It was really, before you start practice, you look at, okay, what are all the things I actually want to get better at? What are all the things I actually want to get better at today? And then actually literally like making a list, saying how long you're going to practice them for, and having a stopwatch. I use online-stopwatch.com, great stopwatch website. It's got a full screen option. It's really luxurious. And really going through that, and in those 15 minutes, really trying to push myself as much as I can with respect to that particular technique. I like this for a few reasons. One, because it's easy when you're practicing to do a thing that feels good and feels familiar and sounds good. It feels good to sound good, but really the way to get better is to sound bad and feel bad. If you feel bad and it sounds bad, that means you're getting better. But that's hard to do without some sort of structure. So for me, if I have like a timer that says 15 minutes, then it's like I can look at the timer and be like, okay, I only have to do this for 5 more minutes. I can do that. And so having this focused, intense practice that's planned, when I start doing that, I start getting way, way better. So let me give you some examples of things that I can practice. So I'll make a list right now. So maybe I do like a 15-minute just warm up freestyle to get my hands loose. But then maybe I do 15 minutes scratch number 1 or something. So it'd be a scratch that I want to learn. So what's a scratch?
2-click flare.
2-click flare? Okay, 2-click flare. And then I do maybe like 15 minutes scratch number 2. What's a
Orbital.
What's that?
Orbital.
Isn't that the same thing?
I thought it was adding a click in it.
Oh, to me, I call them orbit. I mean, all the terminology.
I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Boomerang.
Boomerang. You want boomerang? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, it would just be like a 2-click orbit or like a 3-click orbit. Okay, boomerang. Okay. So and then maybe I do like 15 minutes juggle freestyle. 15 minutes juggle technique 1. 15 minutes juggle technique 2. And how long is that? That's already an hour and a half. And that's going to be like way tougher and way more effective actually than if you just did like aimless practice for like whatever, 4 hours, 5 hours. I had a friend who was like, yeah, I practice 10 hours a day. And he like, I was like, he wasn't like amazing. I was like, it's not necessarily, like more isn't always better. Sometimes it's like same thing, like if you're trying to get fit, you're not just going to like exercise for 10 hours every day.
21 years on a table is not no world champion.
Right. So it's a lot of it is that. Okay. So I'm going to do like 1 minute of each of these things. All right. Here, let's get a timer. Let's get a beat. Let's get to scratch. We'll do like 1 minute. Let's get a nice. There we go. Notes. Okay.
Can you put your notes on the Facebook page or something? Or
Sure.
shoot them out to...
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Okay. And when I do this, I would probably like, what I like to do when I'm just jamming is I just let beats go, and I'll scratch like for the for the first beat, and I'll scratch like a vocal sample for the next. Okay, so I'll just demonstrate what it looks like to practice for 1 minute at a time. But really, you'd want to do this for like 15 minutes. So the first thing we wrote is I'm just going to jam. Timer's done. Okay, the other thing that's good about this is if you're like at 15 minutes you're like, oh wow, I'm really getting it. I would say still stop, because it'll make you excited to come back and practice next day. Okay, so then the next thing on my list is 15 minutes 2-click flare. So sometimes you would do this maybe to no beat, sometimes you do it to a beat. So let's do the 2-click flare to a beat, and then we'll do a boomerang not to a beat. And once again, this is just a sample kind of practice thing. I'll let the same beat here go, and I'm just going to do 2-click flares like as fast and as best as I can.
That is the door I need open personally. I've watched people do that for a couple of years now, and I just don't get it.
All right, so let me break down the scratch as opposed to just doing things. So for the 2-click flare, here's how it works. So I have a sound, I have a classic. And the idea of a click, or a 2-click flare, or 1-click flare, or a 3-click flare, really even a grab when you're doing it in the best possible way, is this is what's called an open fader scratch. Now, an open fader scratch means that the crossfader starts on and ends on. This is a totally different way of scratching from how scratching was done for like 20 years, whereas for a really long time, all of scratching was really like you're here and you're tapping. That would be a closed fader scratch, meaning the scratch starts with the fader closed and ends with the fader closed, or off rather. So the idea of a flare, what we're doing here is in the middle of a motion going forward, we're turning the fader off and on. That's the click. So the first kind of flare is the 1-click flare, meaning we're going to go off and on one time as we move the record, dividing the sound into 2 notes. So what I get here is I get really, at first it might feel weird, but really what's happening is you're getting 2 sounds for 1 motion, off and on. doing the same thing back. So 1 click flare forward, 1 click flare back. And the actual technique that's happening here on the crossfader is what I'm doing is in my resting position, I'm just putting my hand here, I'm kind of hovering. Notice my hand is facing the direction the crossfader is moving. I'm not like this, I'm not like this, I'm not like this. My hand is up here and it's off the mixer. And what's going to happen is I close with my thumb, tap it back out with my finger. And notice how little the crossfader is moving. Notice how little my hand is moving. It's an economy of motion both in the equipment and in my actual hand. So that's a 1 click flare giving me 2 sounds going forward, 2 sounds going back.
Did you keep consistent pressure on the record then the whole time?
You can do it however you want. When you're learning this scratch for the first time, maybe what you want to do is hold the record and keep consistent pressure as you're going forward and then back. Also, when you're doing this the first time, I would divide the forward stroke and the backward stroke. So you're going and then wait, because the tendency, if you haven't been doing these kind of scratches before, is to want to close the fader again. So what people will do if they just try to go fast right away is they'll go kind of like this. And then you've already missed the way back. So what you want to do to start is really be like, check my phone, like check the time, make sure the fader's on, and then come back. Now this is a very powerful scratch because one, it gives you speed that you can never get from just tapping. Like if it, no one can really tap that fast. I'm getting 4 notes. It also gives you a much different texture than if you were just tapping. That's 2 notes forward, 2 notes back on transforming. Because what's happening is you get a note for free and the record changes directions. So that's a 1 click flare. That means the fader goes off and on once, making 2 sounds. A 2 click flare, which is the scratch that was asked about, that's where you go off, you hit it twice before it comes. And what you really want to do is rather than going like off, off, is you really want to be able to develop for the 2 click flare a double hit. Ba-bum, 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 as opposed to bump, bump. You're not going, you could do this as a totally different scratch. You're not doing that. You're doing ba-da-da, da-da-da, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So you really want to develop this kind of thing. And what's happening on the fader is I'm going close, tap, tap, and off. And I reset. And there are all different ways you can do this, but this double hit beyond the 2 click flare is a very important motion for all sorts of other more advanced techniques. Any questions about flaring, 2 click flares?
Is there a crab with a flare?
Well, the best way to do a crab, so the question is there a crab with a flare? And firstly, there are 2 ways you can interpret that question. One would be like, can you do a crab and then a flare or something like that? And the answer to that is, of course, you could do like, that's 1 click, that's a 1 click going forward and a crab back. Now I can do the same 2 click forward, crab back. Let's do 1 click forward, crab back, crab forward, 1 click back.
Since there's only 3 fingers, can you do like multiple triplets just like non-stop?
So there are also 2 ways that people will actually do crabs. One would be with 3 fingers and one would be with 4 fingers. And the difference is the 3 finger crab, where what's happening in crabs, you're going bump, 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 sort of like that. And the best way to do this though is just like a flare, where the fader starts on and ends on. Just to hear the difference, here's an open fader crab. Here's a closed fader crab.
So you're barely, when doing the open fader crab, you're barely, your thumbs, is your thumb really even moving?
My thumb, actually, my thumb is moving. It's sort of coming in and out. It's almost like coming in, acting like a springboard, and then bouncing out on the last tap.
To make it open.
What's that?
To make it open.
To let it be open. But also notice when I'm doing this crab, for people who have trouble with crabs, joke and never. For people who have the motion is sort of like all in here. Notice my fingers stay bent the whole time. I'm not doing any kind of wind-ups or anything like that. It's not like this. The other thing that's happening is as soon as I tap, notice how my fingers bounce right back out. So a lot of times when people do this, they'll sort of like swing through. They'll kind of go like that. Notice where my fingers ended here. Then it's really long way to bounce to reset. So you don't want to go down here. Really, you want the fader to sort of be like a springboard. As soon as your finger hits it, you want to bounce back out as quickly as you can. So I'm like sort of like thumb comes in, I get this kind of bounce action. That's the crab. You can do 3 fingers. You can do 4 fingers. For me, the 3-finger one is a bit more rhythmic. And the 4-fingered one is a bit more sort of like indecipherable madness or something like that. Both really have their purpose. So both kind of have their purpose, and both are worthwhile to know how to do. Any more questions about that? So yeah, like that's another thing that really can trip people up with the crab is they try to do it like this, where it's closed the whole time, and you never will get that continuous rolling sound because your fingers need to reset. But if it's open, you get a note for free when you change direction on the record. Okay. Any questions about that?
That was awesome.
Where were we with that tip
Very helpful.
7 years ago?
Yeah, my bad, man. I'm on I showed this on YouTube. Shiftee Sauce the School of Scratch.
Well, I mean, everyone always talks about like they're like you can do it either way. You can do close fader, open fader, but
Close fader is useful. Like any scratch is useful. You just want to have whatever's happening happen intentionally. So anything can have a purpose to give it a certain sort of punctuation or syncopation, like that. A crab like that has its purpose. You wouldn't want to do an open fader crab in that kind of situation, but it's just you want to make sure you can do both. And for me, like the crabbing you see where it's really fluid and continuous, that's an open fader crab. And actually the crab itself was invented in an open fader sort of situation because it was Kubert doing it with these fingers doing a hamster, meaning the cross fader is reversed. So that's the way it started too. Okay. So I would just continue like this. I would do that for 15 minutes, and obviously at the speed I was doing, like I was already starting to like burn here in my arm after 1 minute. And so what I would do is I just shake it out and go back in and just keep trying to do it. And it's really like going to the gym for your hands and your forearms. It's like I'm like Arnold Schwarzenegger, like from here down, basically. Like if you look at Kubert's hands are crazy. It's like he's got like biceps in his fingers. But it's really what you're doing is scratching. Of course, has a creative and a musical side to it. But really a huge part of it is training your body to do things that's not used to doing. And that happens really solely through pain. Like pain and tediousness and repetition. And that's really the main barrier to being a great scratch DJ.
Is that where the mind over matter comes in?
That's where the mind over matter comes in, is being like
Muscle memory.
Yeah. But it's like like the feeling, like I said, the feeling of getting better is feeling awful and it's sounding terrible. So if you can tolerate that for 15 minutes at a time for 2 or 3 hours a day, you can be really good. That's kind of tough to do.
I always say, I don't know how long, if anybody's been scratching or if anyone's new to it, I would suggest people just to do like a stutter, like, I always use like the word rap, for example, like rap.
Sure.
So that you're not getting like app, or you're not getting rap, you know what I mean? That way you got that kind of control, and once you can bring it back to that, you can start doing
Right.
So like if you're brand new to it, I don't know where everybody stands, but it's like, well, I'm just starting out.
Yeah, maybe don't start with the crowd.
Right.
But yeah, there's a whole, like, for people who haven't done a lot of scratching and are interested in it, there's a whole vocabulary of scratching where really, like, you should be working on the basic techniques for at least months before you even touch a flare. You know, like every scratch you can always get better at, but the way I look at getting better is I start with a certain set of things. I try to push them as far as I can, and I try to like hit a wall with those things. And then once I feel like I've maxed out those particular techniques, that's the only time I'll introduce something new. And that's true whether I'm scratching, beat juggling, or using technology. I don't really believe in going from like here to here. Where I believe in like a slow process of getting better and more complex bit by bit. Okay, so I think that's a good way to practice no matter how you're practicing, whether you're practicing scratching, whether you're practicing mixing, anything like that. Anything in life. I literally like each day, no matter what unless I'm like, it's leisure, but if I'm working, if I'm doing music production, I'm literally, first thing I do, plan out my day, how long I'm going to do it, and I set timers. That's how it works for me. Okay, any more questions about specific, maybe let's do something non-scratching just to keep it. What do you want?
That was next on the list, wasn't it?
Okay, juggling, what do you want? Okay, so for juggling...
I'm 45.
Sure.
No.
Sure. To me, the thing about juggling is, so there are sort of like different situations for juggling. Like one situation for juggling is doing sort of like in the mix, like rocking some doubles and like bringing things back. And for that sort of stuff, it's cool. Like you want to have like an arsenal of patterns that you know you can do and you can execute on any record. For me, if you're making a beat juggle routine, in my mind, it should only work on that record. That's sort of one of my bars that it needs to pass.
It should only work with the tune that's being played. It's like that's when the music comes in.
Right.
Like what sounds you're using. Like, I mean, if it's a scratch tool vinyl or something, I mean, like some of them have different breaks that are only on that scratch tool.
Yeah, and so what I mean is when you're trying to do like juggle routines, you obviously start with the familiar kind of patterns that you know, but at some point you need to look at what's special about this record and what kind of new techniques that I haven't done before can I use on this record? What could work here? And whenever I'm trying to make a routine or really do anything creative, I have a part of it where it's total experimentation, where I'm not analyzing what I'm doing. I'm not trying to think, is this good? Is this bad? I'm really just trying to get as many ideas out on the table. Okay, what if I did this? What if I did that? What if I did this? And the purpose of that is really trying to do new stuff. When I make a new routine, when I think of it, at the time that I think of it, I can't do it. Like, because what I thought of was beyond what I was doing before. The idea, maybe I can do it once, or maybe I see how it could go, but in order to get there, I have to train my body. So let me give you an example of a beat juggle like that. Let's see if I remember how to do it.
Besides the way to carrying bags around, do you like the control vinyls over
real records are better, obviously, for scratching, but I like DJing much more on technology because you can do way more to change the sound and have your hand in the mix, your hand in the set, whether you're playing songs, whether you're doing routines. You can really put your imprint on everything. The whole way through. So I much prefer. I really didn't enjoy DJing parties until digital, because for me, at some point, if you're DJing a party on records, you just have to let the record play, and I don't like to do that.
I know what you mean.
All right.
Practicing scratching on real records is probably a better idea then.
Oh, it's better. And also the vinyl can never properly 100% capture what it is to have the feeling of vinyl record, because in vinyl record there's actual like sound that you feel a little bit when the needle touches it. This is just a tone. So it's also really good. I would practice beat juggling on real vinyl, or at least absolute mode in these programs. I would practice scratching on real vinyl, and part of that is to build up your touch. You want to have a light touch, not just as a superficial thing, but that makes you more efficient. Conservation of energy, conservation of okay, let's see. Okay, yeah, this routine. So I'm going to do this routine, and then I'll sort of talk about it. Okay, so really none. There's one little part that you could do on any record where I do a little normal backspin in the middle of that routine. But if you look at the beginning pattern, here's the beginning pattern. That can only work on that record. And so, okay, how did that come about? That particular pattern might be is like a real crazy kind of pattern in a way, because it's like a chase pattern, which means I'm continually moving through the record the whole time. So the way it came about is the first thing was just this. That was the first part. So that was probably like the first thing that I thought of. And maybe that's all I had for like an hour. And then, I don't know, I was thinking, okay, what would happen if I moved the fader over? Like, let's just find out what happened. Like, I wasn't thinking, like, okay, I know when I move that fader over, that's gonna do it. Just. Okay, that's something. Okay. Okay, so that's only like the littlest bit of the pattern. All that probably took hours and hours and hours. And then at some point, reaching over and doing this, doing the little crab move here, catching another part, doing another kind of scratch. The point is that's hard to reach kind of pattern. But the point is, the way it came about is very, very slowly trying different things and just starting with like the inkling of an idea. The idea that, okay, ba, ba sounds good. Ba, ba sounds good. Okay, and there's some more notes in there. Ba, ba, ba. Ba, ba, ba. Okay, how do I get to ba? And then it's really just, for me, a trial and error process where you're continually trying to like hone in on something that actually feels good. This part, that part comes from, sounds kind of cool on the reverse. So what would happen if I incorporated the reverse intentionally? So to me, scratching is much more. It's much more concrete how to be good at it and how to get better at it. To me, scratching is you drill really hard. You start to build up some patterns and you start to build in some flow. For me, juggling is a more mysterious task, and that it's really about composition more than technique. And so I actually was never someone who necessarily learned all the patterns everyone else did, because someone already thought of those patterns. For me, the fun part of juggling is trying to compose a thing that is beyond what you can do at the present moment, and then training your body to get there, but it's really more of a composition exercise. I don't think that was necessarily a helpful answer for you.
Well, I hear you. I'm still, like you said, a chase pattern.
Yeah.
That is another door that I need open.
Oh, sure. Let me show you a chase pattern.
It starts like on the one, you're like 1, 2, 1, 2. Then on accident once, I was like 1, 2, 2. And I'm like, oh shit. So then I was like 1, 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, 1, 1. I kind of build it like that, but I never understood the chase pattern. I think I kind of get it from how you talk about the opening there.
Yeah. Well, the chase. The idea of the chase, you're just going through the record. Let me get a more normal.
How do you not get lost? I mean,
How do you not get lost? Okay, it's from the sticker. So let me get a more normal hip hop beat.
like, what if one record goes too long, and
If you do it long enough, you'll start to feel where the music's at.
oh, you will?
That might be true, but that's not how I do it personally. What I do is I'm literally watching and following the sticker, and your body does learn how to feel what kind of motions it needs to make. But here's the thing. And so what's happening there is I'm just following the sticker through the record. 1 to 1 to 2 to 2 to 3 to 3 to 4 to 4 to 1 to 1. And I'm literally just going like, okay, the kick is here, where the sticker's here. The snare's here. Next kick is there. Next snare is there. You can't remember all the positions the whole record, but you can do it in real time, where if you're expecting a kick or a snare to happen and you don't hear it, you can adjust in that moment, say, oh, the sticker's a little too far back, next one I need to let go. That's the chase.
Get it? Yeah, thank you.
You're just like going boom to chet to chet to boom to chet to chet.
It's so easy now that you've grown to adapt.
It's
I
easy.
watch people like.
It's an easy idea, but it's hard to do.
I get you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, that was juggling. See, we're doing on time here. There are also some questions that had to do with. Or wait, are there any more juggling questions? Okay.
Do you ever like reset, I guess? Like reset your juggle like with your beat pads? Like if you mess up, is that like a crazy thing? Just like reset it?
Sure. So, I mean, there's the idea of using cue points and turntablism together opens up all kinds of new worlds. One of those worlds is if you mess up, you could theoretically like reset and just like like if I'm gonna be backspinning something, all I have to do is like the record's playing. And then hold the record at like 12 and hit the cue point. So what I'm doing is I use the cue points to get to my sort of like 12 o'clock happy kind of place. Because really what I want to be doing is not have to worry about the pads and just be looking at the stickers here. But what the cue points allow you to do is really like jump through the record in different ways. So let's get a...
Sounds like the audience gives to you. You're fighting.
It's Mr. Bumble.
I can really just go through the whole record executing the same kind of backspinning techniques the whole way. So it lets you really jump through and get to different spots on the record faster than you ever could just by picking up the needle. Cue points are also great with turntablism because you can use cue points to jump to different parts and scratch. So for instance,
all day.
So that's on the record.
All day. All day.
so I can jump to different spots and then do scratches there. A couple techniques that are really nice to do for things like that. One of them is to hit the cue point and do a forward baby scratch at the exact same time. So that's one where you just hit and do the forward baby scratch at the same time. Another is to do, there's a scratch that's a really nice transform pattern where you do one note forward, two notes back. That sounds like this. Just tapping once forward and two times back. But what you can do is you can use the cue points as your note forward. So cue points are like one of my favorite creative tools in general. Like I use cue points like crazy. I use them for a bunch of reasons. One of them is one of the key things that lets me mix faster. Because I won't play a song unless I've beat gridded it in Tractor, I've set cue points on every single place of the track where I might want to jump to, or if there's like a melody that I want to scratch like I did here, or a vocal phrase that I want to scratch, I'll set a cue point or a loop on it. And so what that means is anytime I load in a track, I can interact with it in all the ways that I want to in order to be faster and be more creative. So a lot of being faster in terms of how you're going through tracks is just preparation in terms of cue points and knowing the music. But like any track here has a bunch of stuff, and I make little notes to myself.
Put it in the comments.
Yeah, I put it in the comments. So, for instance, this says Q2, 3, 4, 5. We are the dopest. All right, I like just put this in here. I never played this track before. So as soon as I'm mixing that song, as soon as I want to get to "We Are the Dopest," I know it's right there. And this also, I also mark like the different drops. So what this means is, if I'm mixing two tracks and like their phrasing isn't lining up, I can manually make it play where I want them to play. It also means if part of the song isn't really working with an audience, I can just jump to another part of the song. Question?
Do you keep going vocals to the left and then beats to the right? That's right.
So the question is sort of like, how do I set up my cue points? So the way it works is I typically set up my cue points within a specific track chronologically. So wherever the first thing is that I marked, that'll be 1. Whatever the second thing I marked is, that'll be 2. And what's going on my machine here is this is the left deck on this half. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then the right deck over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But sometimes it'll switch as I'm making a routine or something, but generally I like to set them all in order, and I'll make little notes to myself.
You don't separate your drops from your vocal samples on the pad?
No, I don't separate it.
Just as they occur in the song?
Yeah, it's just whenever the order is in the song, because I'm always just right here, I'm just accessing different parts of the same track. So if that has vocal samples, I might use it like a scratch sample, but it's still just a part of the track. I have other spots here where I actually would like load in one-shot samples.
On a different page.
On a different page. Yeah.
Do you beat grid on a tick or do you use a loop?
The question is, do I beat grid on a tick or do I use a loop? I use the tick. Because the tick is what matters. Yeah, like how it's going to sound, if it's going to sound on beat rather than like where they look, that's what's most important. So I use the tick.
Use the native tick.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And for me, this lets me mix like really, really quickly. Like you can even just things like I'll just do some quick. would have dropped it right on the vocal, which is coming, but I had right now, like for instance, if I want to move faster, this intro is really long, I would just manually. So cue points and prep really can help you like race through songs. Yeah. Any questions about?
Build your own how many songs do you have like per track? I guess do you like build your own like Ableton or something?
No, I just loaded in. That was all like freestyle, one track at a time, a random playlist.
Oh, okay.
And it's just because I have them prepped well.
Okay.
So that's all just. It's all just one track at a time.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people, like I see like Red Bull 3 style people, I wonder if they build like their own like track so they can go faster. I mean, is that like...
They do that, yeah, sure, you can do that. In some ways that's almost, so some people will make like a custom track where it's like all the things that just happened might just like be in the track or something like that, or like the vocal change will just be later in the track, you can jump to it with a cue point. Sometimes I'll do things like that if it's necessary, especially if it's for a full-on routine. Generally, I'm not doing that. One, it's almost more work to like go and find the exact right place and make sure the levels of those tracks are the right way. For me, it's almost easier in a way to just like freestyle and do it all live and load in all the tracks. But it also lets you be much more flexible in terms of how you develop your workflow. So if you're able to mix real fast like that with all sorts of different tricks and jumping around just by default, and you don't need some special track for it, that's just going to make you more powerful in general situations. If you can only be like that if you have some special track, I think it kind of limits you. And really, now that I think about it, the only time I ever make like a custom track is for I have this project called Easy where we do sort of like production live on 4 turntables, and for that I have to, because we're just using our own productions and we're basically playing it like a band, so I have to like bounce out the synth line and do it like that. But yeah, I think it's better.
Get into anything like C4C or team turntables?
What is it?
Did you ever get into like team turntables?
You mean C2C?
Yeah, C4C.
From France?
Yeah.
C2C. The French guys, right? There's 4 of them, but they're called C2C. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I have a project with this guy called Inferno, and our project is called Easy, and we play on 4 turntables, 2 machines, and a keyboard, and we also produce tracks, and we sort of DJ, but we also perform our tracks live like a band.
Wasn't he the Serato version of you at one point in time? Like the head guy for Serato?
Yeah,
the
yeah.
main demo guy?
Yep.
Still on Serato?
Nah. He's doing Serato. He uses Ableton too, though, because he does Ableton.
I don't want to die.
Well, we're all in it together, guys. Any more questions about sort of like mixing quickly and getting through tracks? I think this is also one of the other sort of topics that people brought up is planning sets and planning routines, and those are 2 very different kind of things. And so for planning sets, like if you were to plan like how to prepare for like a 1-hour set, or how I prepare for a set like tonight, for instance, is I really don't like make a playlist or like, you know, like, okay, I'm gonna play this song, then 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 this song. That's not how I like to do it. I mean, of course, I'll have some prepared pieces that I'll do that are more full-on routines, but I think really what it means a lot of times to be a DJ, most of the time, it means assessing the situation, reading the room, reacting to how people are reacting to the music that you're playing and adapting. So what I like to do is to make myself is to organize my music before I play and narrow down the tracks I want to play, so that when I assess a certain need for the dance floor, when I read something, information that they're giving me, that I can go to my tracks and meet that need as efficiently and effectively as possible. So I don't want to be in a situation where like like I accidentally, like I played a polka song or something like that, and then it's like, man, they're like loving polka tonight, I gotta play more polka songs. I don't want to be like, okay, which of these 30,000 songs are polka tracks? And do I even like these polka tracks that I'm picking? Like, what are these tracks? And so what I like to do, my workflow as far as preparing for a gig, is the first thing I do is I go through like past playlists, and I would make a playlist which is like all St. Louis. What I do is I go through all my recent relevant past gigs, and any track I think I might want to play, I put in my all St. Louis folder on my all St. Louis playlist. So I'm literally like listening to each track, and for each track thinking, could I possibly want to play this tonight? So it's not just a bunch of random tracks. They all make one set of cuts. Then what I do is I make a top St. Louis playlist and go, do I really want to play this tonight? Like, how many tracks are in that? Like, if I'm doing an hour and a half set, I don't need like 300 tracks. I don't need 250 tracks. I don't even need 200 tracks. Probably I need like 150 tracks. And so what I do is then I listen through all of them again, and I say, okay, which of these do I really want to play? And I make a top St. Louis playlist. I have it right here. And then what I do is, out of those tracks, and only out of the top tracks, is then I start to do more sorting by genre, sorting by function, sorting by style. And so what I have here, so in my St. Louis playlist, I have 4/4, I have 80 beats per minute, I have dubstep, I have EDM trap, I have halftime grime and medium trap, I have melodic and chill, I have mid-tempo and up, I have old school, and I have rap and vocals. And what I did is I went to the top St. Louis, and I went through each track and put it in all the relevant playlists. So if I'm playing tonight, and I'm like, you know, they're not really liking these like hard grime beats that I'm playing, let me switch it up to old school hip hop. I have in my old school folder here only 11 songs. And so out of the tracks that I'm playing, I know every one of these tracks I want to play, every one of these tracks I've thought about, every one of these tracks I know where the cue points are. And so when I read, okay, they need old school hip hop, I'm meeting the need with a lot of like a very narrowed down selection that lets me make a good choice right in the moment. And this for me is the most useful way for me to organize music. So if someone's like, okay, play like melodic and chill tracks, it's like, boom, got it. And it's right, I have a cue point right on the drop if I need it. Say if someone's like, okay, hit them with the EDM trap. But this is not like my general like 2000 EDM traps songs. In my EDM trap folder for tonight, I just have 12 songs, and so it makes it super narrowed down, and so it's a combination here of a lot of prep work, obviously, but I'm coming in and improvising totally and trying to react to what people are giving me totally, and it's just I've sort of thought about how I would meet each of those situations ahead of time. Building a routine that is like building like a full-on kind of routine, like performance piece, is a much different experience, and it's closer to when we were talking about beat juggling, where you just like experiment, try to develop what you're doing, compose it, and then practice it, but really like start with the thing and build it up. A routine can take a long time to build. Maybe let me do a routine so it's not all talking.
What about like a 4-hour set? Like a 3 or 4 hour set? I mean, do you really narrow those down still? Or just kind of...
Yeah, I really narrow this down. So for instance, I play in Atlantic City. I played in Atlantic City recently for 3 hours, and in my top folder, there are 283 songs. So I did go through, listen, think about, for a situation that's more open and is longer, you're obviously going to have more tracks. and if you're more uncertain about what kind of night it's going to be, you're going to have more tracks. But if you have a better idea of what the party is going to be like, you can narrow it down a bit more.
I got a question too.
Yeah.
I just got into DJing out places for just to love hip hop music. I love hip hop music. So when I play, I know a lot of people kind of play like one verse, mix the next jam in, one verse, mix the next jam in. I don't do that. I want to hear like the third verse of, you know, well, like I won't cut out the symphony before Cool G Rap's verse or something. You know what I mean? Like, so I'll play like the jam and then mix the next jam in. Is that gonna like put everyone to sleep?
There's no. So the question is like he likes to let his tracks breathe, like in general, and so one, is that going to put everyone to sleep? That's the question.
Like a hip hop aficionado, you know.
People's attention span is real short lately. I mean,
Yeah, I don't cater to.
like I have like 4.5 minutes of two tunes playing through the master, and I mean it's only one break that I'm changing a record, and then I'm already queued it up and it's mixed out. So to switch tunes from tune to tune, like you have like 200 tunes for a few hours, like it's 24 tunes that makes it 80 minute days. The way I mix. So, I mean, I don't know about switching up quickly because like there's still a minute and a half intro. So if I switch quick, it's still a minute and a half in the mix. But
so I'll speak on that and then speak on that. And then I'll do something so it's not just like a book club. Firstly, I think any DJ has to make some sort of calculation as to like a DJ is a weird job, a weird sort of thing, which sometimes you're like an artist, and sometimes you're more like a caterer or something like that. And in other words, like sometimes it's about you and your like artistic vision, and other times it's about the people and making them happy. And in any situation, there's some balance of that going on. Like, it's rare to be in a situation where it can be all about you and it will make everyone happy. And you probably don't want to be in a situation where you make everyone happy, but you like feel horrible about yourself afterwards. So every DJ has to make his or her own calculation about to what extent they want to be catering to people and to what extent their own sort of like artistic vision is going to be what's important. And really, in my own estimation, what you want to have is a balance. So if you go and do a set, and I'll speak more on like the specific idea of playing things for a long amount of time, but just in general, if you go and play a set and everyone hates it, and you're like, no, these are my tracks, and like screw you, these are my tracks, but everyone hates it. I don't know like what value there was to that. I think the challenge is if you like everyone who's a DJ has some sort of distinct musical world that is your world of the tracks that you think are good and you like and you value. And so a lot of the challenge is in situations where people don't necessarily know that musical world or share that musical world is sort of bringing them in. And sort of getting them in, but making it work within the context of making them happy. So if I'm playing like a bottle service club, I'm not going to play like grime instrumentals or something for like 2 hours. I'll play like the top 40 track, I'll play the next top 40 track, but then in the middle I'll put a thing that's like distinctly me and then cut it up. And so I think what you're always kind of seeking is a balance where you get to put your own sort of flavor on something that still works for everyone. I personally have gone through different phases of this. I had a phase where I was like, screw everyone, I'm just going to do me, and if people don't like it, like, they can go suck a lemon. I heard that on The Simpsons once. I don't know if it's modern. But now, more recently, I'm more so thinking about how can I bring people into my kind of world, or even like trick them into liking things that are more weird. Or
you learned how to hunt and fish.
I learned how to hunt and fish. At a certain point, I would just like drop a bomb in the water and hope some fish came out. But now I'm like talking to the fish and be like, hey, fish, trying to get in their well. Yeah. So the idea of playing songs for a long amount of time, it's really whatever you want to do. And I think you look and you see if you're putting people to sleep. And if you are putting people to sleep, maybe just like switch it up. And if people are still grooving, like I think a set doesn't have like the same speed the whole time. A set should have fast parts. It should have parts where the tracks breathe. It should have ups and downs, and you really want to have a variety in the speed with which you mix, the techniques that you use to mix, so it stays interesting throughout. It can be effective where you play a whole song, then a whole song, and a whole song. Maybe it'd be more effective if you go whole song, boom, 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 whole song. So one, it's good to be able to do all these different types of things, but two, you want to be like looking at people and reading the audience to see how it's working. Like if you're putting people to sleep, look, you'll see them, they're sleeping. Yeah.
I've always been kind of designated to hip hop nights, so I expect people to know hip hop music when they come to see it. They shouldn't have a problem. But I wasn't sure how tonight was going to go, and I was like, I hope.
Who knows? Like for instance, this was billed as a hip hop sort of thing, and I'm honestly like personally a little more into like club music and electronic music, so I'm going to have my own kind of balancing act tonight where I see if people are going to be willing to like listen to things that aren't old school hip hop. I only have 10, 11 old school hip hop tracks I want to play. So I hope people. It's not good for 2 hours, no. So I think you just read it and you're ready. Yeah. Any more questions about any of these issues? I can also do some things. I'm happy to just talk. I'm going to DJ later too.
What version of tractor are you using right now?
2.81.
Okay, you're not ahead of the curve.
No, not yet. I mean, I could have the beta, but stability, and yeah, like right now this does everything I need it to do.
He's used to it.
Yeah.
Do you mess with Serato ever?
Not really. I mean, I've taught it, but right now, I haven't DJ'd a gig on Serato in like I don't know, 7 years. Something.
You ever been compared to live PA with 2 turntables?
What's that? Have ever been compared to a live PA?
Yeah.
Yes, sure.
I mean, like with beat juggling and stuff, like you can't do with a machine, but with cuts and stuff, with 2 records playing, I mean, like, it's limitless.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think all this technology does make it so you can be kind of like if you want to have moments where you're like a performer, you can. If you want to have moments where you're just playing tracks, you can. All right, let me try to do something. Do a routine.
This ain't too big to travel around with.
S8's a little too big. I've been doing some sets with 2 D2s, but that's also huge. That's bigger.
How much work you gotta do, right? Feel me?
Just when you
I don't know, any requests?
I want my chin to hit the floor.
You want your chin to hit the floor. Okay. Are y'all coming to the party later? Yeah.
Yep.
Man, maybe I shouldn't.
It's all right.
No, do your thing.
It's okay.
All right, I'm gonna do a routine that I don't know if I remember how to do.
Do a DMC routine.
That beat juggle was a DMC routine. Yeah.
Have you met Fong Fong?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, maybe I don't remember how to do this. Like that.
Have you used the stems at all? The stems format?
Not yet. I mean, I've seen it used.
Does it have to be in the new beta version?
It has to. Yeah, it's part of the new beta.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they're gonna come out with that pretty
Must be pretty soon.
soon. And I need what else?
Brought you out here, son.
You know what they got?
Somatic.
Stems version. We're making
Craziness.
That. All right. Let's see.
Pre-made and bass.
It's
Maybe I do. Let me see. I messed something up. Let's try it again.
Shiftee.
That's a machine there, right?
That's machine, yeah. Okay, so that's a little something.
Do you ever do juggles with the sample decks?
Yeah, so like what was happening in that little beat juggle part is, so I have this. I have a juggle going. But then what I do is I turn on flux mode for both sides and I go to the sample here. So the way this record works, there's this sound. I have the same. And then you can also get that sound from hitting stop start. So I'm going like. Yeah. So same thing. So I'm basically like getting the same sound from 3 different places. One, that sound is on the record. One, I'm making that sound by hitting the stop start. And I also have the same sound as the sample.
And letting the vocal bleed in is like the icing on the cake. It's so great.
Well, the little.
Yeah. you let the vocal bleed in.
Yeah, it's from using this flux mode thing.
Yeah.
And so with the flux mode, jump to a spot. When I take my finger off, it goes back to the same spot. So this is going like.
So you obviously do a lot of tricks for effects. Do you use the effects ever? And what effects do you use? And what's the logic behind using those particular effects?
Sure. Yeah, so the question is what effects do I use and what's the logic behind them? So my standard, like when I'm mixing, my standard effects chain that I like to have is I like to have on one effects panel a beat masher, into a gator, into a flanger. And so beat masher goes like and then a gator goes like this. And I like the 3 of them together to make sort of like cool effects, and also if I need to make a big sort of chain. But for different, I really like the flanger. The flanger is really nice for scratching.
Like what you did, I consider that live today. I mean, like,
Yeah.
like you just built a drop with making up something new. That's live today.
Yeah, personally I try to do like a hybrid. But yeah, flanger on its own is great for. mean, there's not a lot of logic behind it aside from the delay, which is a really useful transition tool, aside from messing with things and thinking things sound cool. Any more questions?
Any production tips?
My main production tip is to just do it as much as possible from start to finish. That is,
with a mixer and a turntable, and then record it, and then mess with it inside the computer.
that works too. You could be me and then record it and then mess with that inside your computer. That works too. But I think the main
little Shiftee.
Yeah.
Yeah, where's little Shiftee?
He's a diva. He became a diva. He's in like Ibiza right now in a hot tub. But the main thing for production is, I think, is just to go try to make as many tracks as possible, like from start to finish, and not to agonize over trying to make like every single thing like Mona Lisa or something like that, because the way you get better is really just doing it a lot of times. And for me, that's always been the most effective things. Like, to me, quantity is quality. That if you make enough things, some of it's going to be good, and you'll refine your process. And every time you try to do something and it ends up sounding bad, you're learning. You're learning that whatever it is that you did, those steps don't work. And so that helps you hone in on a method that works.
If you want to get better at producing, I found out if you know how DJs mix, then like real good DJs make better tunes.
Do you use the default EQing on that mixer?
So if you want to buy some decks and a mixer,
You don't like
play
the
with
zero. One of them makes it drop to total zero.
Yeah,
It's
one
not
of
the
them drops to
EQ.
outro.
You know what? It's just been fine for me.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, I mean the filters themselves. I need the filters to be how they are for certain routines.
Right. I don't change the filter, but I change the EQ, but I'm kind of thinking about changing it back.
You know what? I actually never even tried it because just what was happening was fine for me. But it could be better.
Because it has on one of the
Yeah,
it's
it's
a
its own
total
EQ.
zero.
Yeah.
Zero drop.
That's true. Total zero. Total zero is good. Maybe I'll change it. Maybe I'll change it for tonight.
Do you assign a pad to, like, with an effect turned on, like a sample with the effect already turned on within it?
No, what I have here is I have some things which turn on the effects on different decks.
Right.
So that'll be like this will turn it on for my effect for decks 1 and 2. If I hold shift, it'll turn it on for those decks. But then I also have here, this will turn on certain effects for remix deck C, remix deck D. And I do have some things that are programmed in that I actually like never ever use for whatever reason. That I like effects.
Freeze mode?
What's that?
Is that freeze mode?
No, that was just.
Do you ever use that, freeze mode?
I've only used, so freeze mode is a thing where it lets you just take a chunk of the track and start doing. Not in this setup, but I have been doing that in when I've been using like the D2 or the S8. I'll use freeze mode a lot, and it's cool. Yeah. Questions?
Did you ever dip into 3 decks?
Sure.
3 turntables like Empath and 3 decks?
A little bit more so. What I'll do is I'll have like a 3rd and 4th deck going live with samples or synced internally just with this setup. So often I'll be mixing 3 or 4 tracks or have 3 or 4 decks going of stuff, but typically I'm only using the turntables for 2 of the decks, and I'm controlling the other decks with this stuff.
Yeah, so you really branch out with the technology and new things.
Yeah.
So like you're like crazed, but then you saw this all technology, you're like, I want to mess with that. Because I think you're probably as good, if not better, than DJ Craze.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
I always looked up to him for like 7 years.
I look up to him still.
He's like that too. That's the joke.
Adrian, how much time do we have? Wrap it.
Hey, they're in charge.
I got tickets to the Cardinals game.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Nice guy.